my sister. Riley.
Shelby Oaks is a brand new horror film that hit theaters this weekend. The film is directed by Chris Stuckman, and for those of you who may not know, Chris got his start with the movies right here on YouTube as a movie reviewer. And I remember finding his channel so many years ago myself, really latching on to his content, enjoying the movie reviews that he would put out, the different Halloween specials that he would put out every single year, really just enjoying that kind of content. It would lead me to finding other movie reviewers like John Flickinger, and between those reviewers, it would one day inspire me to create my own movie review channel. And then a couple of years ago, Chris announced that he wanted to direct his own feature-length horror film called Shelby Oaks. He started a Kickstarter campaign. He asked the fans to help him fund this project, and that campaign on Kickstarter would end up being the biggest Kickstarter campaign for a horror film in the history of that website. And that's pretty big in and of itself. And through the filmmaking journey that Chris went on while making Shelby Oaks, he would end up linking up with one of the greatest horror directors working today, and that of course is Mike Flanagan. Mike Flanagan would become a producer on this movie. The movie would then go to festivals where it would premiere for different studios to look at, and eventually would catch the eye of Neon, the movie studio that is putting out maybe the best horror films today. It's really a toss-up between them and A24. So Neon scooped this film up, gave Chris some more money to add some more things into this film, and we finally, all these years later, have Shelby Oaks in theater. And so this weekend, on my birthday weekend, which was a pretty cool weekend to get to see this movie, I got to sit down and watch Shelby Oaks in a full theater, and oh, it felt great. So let's do the review for Shelby Oaks. Hey guys, so it occurred to me while I was making this video that I never stated specifically that I also gave to this Kickstarter campaign. I just wanted to sort of full disclosure out there, like, hey, I gave to this Kickstarter. I gave it the Blu-ray level, so I am expecting a Blu-ray of Shelby Oaks in the mail eventually, but that's not why I'm being positive to this movie. I'm not being positive because I gave to this. I'm not telling you to go see this movie because I gave to this movie. I legitimately enjoyed my time with Shelby Oaks. I think it's a fun horror movie. It's not the best of the year, but it's a fun time, and I would definitely recommend it. But again, not because I gave to it, and I just feel like it's important to say that up front. All right, now let's do the review.
Here we go.
That is one big pile of shit.
No, I shot him. Bullets in the fall killed him.
So Shelby Oaks opens up as a bit of a documentary. You're introduced to a woman named Mia, played by Camille Sullivan, who's looking for her sister who's been missing for over 14 years. Her sister Riley, played by Sarah Dern, used to be part of this group known as the Paranormal Paranoids. They had a YouTube channel back in 2008 where they would upload their paranormal adventures that they would go on, and it didn't get the most clicks in the world. It wasn't the biggest channel on YouTube by any means, but it was people going to paranormal places, and so it did have a little bit of a fan base. People that believed in the stuff they were doing, people that didn't believe in it. And then one day everything kind of changed for the Paranormal Paranoids because their final adventure, which was to a town called Shelby Oaks, would be their final upload. 3 of the members of this group would be found dead, while the 4th, Riley, would be missing. There's one videotape that was found in the scene where Riley was filming herself, and then she's clearly trying to run away from something. Something grabs her, and the video cuts out. So she's now being treated as a missing persons. And when this happened 14 years ago, oh, it set things ablaze on the internet. People were looking for Riley. Where is Riley? What happened to Riley? But 14 years later, it now seems that Mia is the only one still interested in what happened to her sister. So as I said, the movie opens up as a bit of a documentary with some found footage put in from the adventures of the Paranormal Paranoids, and that's the movie I thought we were going to get. I thought we were going to get a more of a mockumentary, found footage style film. And while you do get this film also morphs into just a standard film. And so I think putting those 3 elements together was pretty genius, but we'll get to my positives here in a minute. The rest of the film involves Mia looking for her sister all these years later, going back to Shelby Oaks with some new information that she's found that she's actually keeping away from the police for reasons I don't want to get into here. So she goes into Shelby Oaks to look for her sister in a very scary supernatural situation. And while I don't want to be vague, I don't want to spoil anything for you guys, so that's the best synopsis that I can give you for Shelby Oaks. If that sounds like a fun time, well, this movie is currently playing in theaters, and you should definitely go check it out on a big screen. Now, I am going to get into my positives and my negatives for Shelby Oaks here in a second, but before I do that, if this is the first time you found my channel, well, I would love for you guys to hit that subscribe button, check out all the different content that I have, whether you like movie reviews, Blu-ray talk, or even ranked list videos. I've got a little bit of everything on my channel, and I'd love for you guys to check it out. All right, let's get into my positives and my negatives for Shelby Oaks. My first positive for this movie is going to be something I touched on while giving you the synopsis, and that is the way that it was filmed. Again, the movie opens up as a bit of a documentary, what happened to Riley, what's going on with her, and then you get to see found footage, so it's a bit of a found footage film as well. And while there's a bit of that sort of interlaced in this film, it also is just a straightforward movie. Eventually, the documentary cameras are turned off, eventually there's no more found footage to be seen, and so it just becomes a film, and I love the way that Chris was able to blend those three elements together seamlessly. Again, I was expecting a straightforward found footage film, and then I heard, oh, it's a bit of a documentary, mockumentary style film. I was like, okay, well then it's going to be a little bit like the movie I saw earlier this year, Strange Harvest, which I really loved. I loved the mockumentary style with also putting in found footage, and that's what this movie has. But again, this movie also has just your standard film element. I don't know what else to call it, just what you would normally see in a movie, and I think they blend those so well together that when you got the found footage, it was like a treat in the film. It was like, oh, more found footage. Cool. We're going to get to see a little bit more of this. Or when it jumped to more of a documentary at the beginning and end of this film, you're like, oh, okay, we're finishing the documentary. It was really a fun way to see this film from so many different angles. My next positive is the way that they were able to utilize the background of every scene in this movie to keep the tension up. And what I mean by that is at the beginning of this film, they show you some found footage, and then those same characters tell you, the viewer, hold on a second, let's slow it down, look right here. And you're like, oh, there was something in the background of that scene. And that kind of set the tone for the rest of the film for you, the viewer, to be on the lookout through the rest of the movie. Because there are some times where you will have those moments of found footage where they're like, whoa, okay, let's show the documentary people here, really showing you, the viewer, hey, you saw it this way. Now when we slow it down, take a look at it now. But again, what that does for you, the viewer, is it says, hey, I need to be on the lookout for every scene in this movie, looking into the background to see if there's something there. And every once in a while, there will be something there. There'll be a pair of eyes, or there'll be a shadowy figure. Like, there'll be something in the background of these scenes. And it's just a great way to kind of utilize the tension this movie was building through you, the viewer. I thought that was really well done. And all of that tension building, forcing you to look around the screen, leads to my next positive, in that there are some well-placed scares throughout this film. Yes, there's a few jump scares. Most horror films have them. There's never so many that it gets annoying like other horror films, but there are just well-placed scares throughout this movie that, because again, you're at high alert looking through the scene, something can still get you. And I think that was a really fun way to implement the scares in this movie. My next positive for this movie is going to be the amount of gore or blood that's used in this film. I've said on this channel many times, I don't like gore for the sake of gore. I don't need a ton of blood in a horror movie just because it's a horror movie. Like, make the gory moments, the nasty, harsh moments count. And I think this movie does that. There's a moment where somebody just absolutely gets their face ripped off in this film. There's another moment with dogs in this movie that's pretty horrifying. And I think that those moments are called for and they're necessary. But if you're a big fan of seeing blood in a horror movie, I think this movie uses the right amount throughout the film. And my final positive for this movie is the story, or the mystery, that slowly unraveled for you, the viewer, throughout this film. The movie opens asking big questions. What is going on in Shelby Oaks? What's the supernatural presence that these paranormal paranoids ran into? What happened to Riley? Those are the big questions that this film asks. And then it slowly unravels the mystery for you, leaving you at the edge of your seat trying to figure out these things with the characters that you're following. And I think it did a great job answering most of those questions by the end of the film. I'm not saying this movie ties everything up in a perfect bow, and I don't think it needed to. I think this movie needed to ask the questions, answer the majority of them, and maybe leave some things up to the viewer's interpretation, and that's exactly what's done here. When you watch this film, You say, okay, these are the main questions that I have. And by the end of the film, I was pretty satisfied with the answers that the film gave me, which I think is something that a lot of horror films struggle to do. A lot of horror films ask a lot of great questions right off the bat. What's the mystery? What's the supernatural presence? But by the time you get to the end, you're like, hey, you didn't really answer any of the questions. You just kind of threw a bunch of stuff at the wall to see what would stick. But I didn't feel that with this movie. I felt like there was a direct line of here's the questions and here's the majority of the answers. Again, a little bit's left up to your interpretation, but I think that's good. I think ending this with a perfect bow on it would have been a mistake. But I think the way that they wrapped things up in this film was done right. That'll do it for my positives. Now we have to move over to my negatives, and I really only have one negative as of right now, and that is in the last 15 to 20 minutes of this film, when you're finally getting the answers to the questions that have been asked throughout the film, it does feel a bit rushed. You know, throughout most of this film, the film takes its time. It's building that tension. It's building that story. And when you get to those last 15 to 20 minutes, I don't want it to be boring, but I did feel like you were getting answer, crazy thing, the movie's over. And it just felt like a bit rushed, or you could have added a little bit more into that ending to sort of stretch that ending out, make it feel like, oh, we got answers and now there's going to be this. And it was kind of like that. They do something big in Shelby Oaks that I won't get into, and then you move to a different location. You're like, okay, so now we're going to get a little bit more, but even that little bit more does feel a bit rushed. And I don't know if that's just because of the budget of this film, if they couldn't add any more into that. Maybe that's just the story that Chris wanted to tell. You know, he's the writer and director on this film, and so maybe that is the full story he wanted to tell in those last 20 minutes. Maybe he wanted to add more and just couldn't because this is a low budget horror film. I don't know, but the ending does feel like it could have been stretched out a little longer. You could have dealt with those answers a little bit longer at the end of this film. Let us sit with those as the audience. But overall, I had a great time with Shelby Oaks. This was a movie that I really was anticipating throughout the entire year. It was on my most anticipated movies list for the last couple of years in a row because I didn't know when this movie was going to be released. I hope the movie does great in theaters. I hope people go see this movie and talk about it for a couple of weeks because that's what this movie deserves. Chris was finally able to see his dream of making a feature-length film that goes to theaters. He was finally able to see that through, and I think that's awesome. Anybody that gets to live out their dream, I think it's fantastic, and I support it. So would I recommend this movie to people? Well, absolutely I would. If you're a big fan of found footage, mockumentary style films, or just straight up horror films, then I think you'll enjoy every little element of this movie. But as always, guys, those are just my opinions because that's my review for Shelby Oaks. Have you guys had a chance to see this film yet? If you have, let me know in the comment section down below. Let me know where we agree or disagree. I love hearing all of your comments in that comment section. And finally, guys, if you like this video, don't forget to hit that like button because it helps the video, it helps the channel, and it helps me right here. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. All right, guys, we got to the end of my review for Shelby Oaks. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I had a great time seeing this movie. Loved that I got to watch this movie, make a review for it myself. Just one of the people that I've looked up to on YouTube for so long, and now I get to review his movie. That's crazy to me. But with that said, though, guys, if you want to check out any of the other content on my channel, well, I've got my entire Halloween movie review series list right there, and I've got my entire 2025 movie review list right there.